feel the way that every child should. Sit and listen, sit and listen. Went to school and I was very nervous. No one knew me, no one knew me. Hello teacher, tell me what's my lesson. Look right through me, look right through me.
Invisible Enemies from Bill Muir. A college student finds a pair of glasses which allows him to see demons.
It's like the devil is collecting souls and he's got like a zillion ways to do it. He's trying to destroy us. I can see things with them, Dre. Things other people can't see.
And take a look here at this actor who is playing the role of Satan in the History Channel miniseries, The Bible. All right, so if you think it looks anything like President Obama, you are not alone. Social media blew up after the scene aired. There were nearly 20,000 tweets containing the words Obama and Satan.
Peter, what can I do for you?
I'm sorry to bother you, Mr. Lee. I have a friend, Mary Jane. She's a reporter. She's doing a story on art imports, and she found this piece. Well, she wanted an expert opinion on it, and I know you have a degree.
And this might be the first time I actually get to use it. Let's see what you have. Interesting. Where'd she find it?
I'm really not sure. Why, what is it?
A replica of an antique Chinese opera mask. I haven't seen one in years. This symbol here roughly translates to demon.
Demon?
My father read me ghost stories with that mask and symbol in it when I was young. Scared the hell out of me. Peter, listen. That mask, it could be connected to dangerous people.
Hi, Paul here from Mosque Shop Lakeside Village. We are absolutely delighted to have opened as the UK's only designated mask retailer. Come down and visit us. We're open 7 days a week. We've got masks, snoods and accessories to suit all tastes, and we would be delighted to see you soon.
This is an interesting piece, Mr. Ipkiss. Looks like 4th or 5th century Scandinavian, possibly a representation of one of the Norse night gods, maybe Loki.
Loki? Who's Loki?
The Norse god of mischief. Supposedly he caused so much trouble that Odin banished him from Valhalla forever.
Then he could have banished him into that mask.
I'm talking about mythology, Mr. Ipkiss. This is a piece of wood.
But your book.
My book is about masks as a metaphor, Mr. Ipkiss. A metaphor, not to be taken literally. You're suffering from a mild delusion.
Oh. All right. I'm gonna prove it to you. But I am not responsible for the consequences. Just sit back and enjoy the ride, Mr. Expert.
You don't scare me, Mr. Ipkiss. Go right ahead.
See ya.
Shady's back. Tell a friend. Guess who's back? 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 Guess who's back?
Face masks and social distancing measures are here to stay even after the vaccine. That's according to the top infectious disease expert in the U.S., Dr. Anthony Fauci, on CNN's Sunday show, State of the Union. Fauci said the vaccine may be 90 to 95% effective for the general population, but added, quote, "You don't necessarily know for you how effective it is." He said the availability of vaccines will make the situation less stringent, but abandoning all public health measures completely would not be a good idea.
We need your help. Wear a mask for just 100 days. It's the easiest thing you can do to reduce COVID cases, hospitalizations, and death. Help yourself, your family, and your community. Whatever your politics or point of view, mask up for 100 days once we take office. 100 days to make a difference. It's not a political statement, it's a patriotic act. My first 100 days is going to require, I'm going to ask for a masking plan. Everyone for the first 100 days of my administration to wear a mask. It will start with my signing an order on day one to require masks where I can under the law, like federal buildings, interstate travel on planes, trains, and buses. I'll also be working with the governors and mayors to do the same in their states and their cities. We're going to require masks wherever possible. Secondly, this team will help get at the last 100 million COVID-19 vaccine, at least 100 million COVID vaccine shots into the arms of the American people in the first 100 days. 100 million shots in the first 100 days.
Could bring a fall when I'm far from home. Don't call me on the phone to tell me you're alone. It's easy to deceive, it's easy to cheat, but hard to get released. Without a face, eyes without a face, eyes without a face, got no human grace, your eyes without a face. Dream alive. Now it makes me sad, it makes me mad and true, for loving what is you. Eyes without a face, eyes without a face, eyes without a face, got no human grace, your eyes without a face.
The artwork that's always inspired me is always the really surreal, creepy, weird stuff. You know, I didn't really set my mind that this would be my career. It was more of an experiment. If I could make something really incredibly realistic, I could create this disconnect, this juxtaposition, this surreal midday nightmare. First and foremost, I want a mask that's going to be fun to wear. I like the Crybaby because it started my career. It took about 9 months to do, coincidentally, to sculpt the first Crybaby. And then one of my YouTube videos went viral. I've been busy ever since. When somebody puts on a mask, it's transformative. As soon as you put that mask on, nobody knows who you are. You have become that person. My favorite sculpt that I've ever done is the Mike Tyson mask. The little girl mask that I made, that's a favorite because it terrifies the hell out of people. I scare more people with that mask than any of the other masks. My best friends in the world, that's their daughter. So for a long time, I didn't fess up or admit what people's reactions were. They're really cool though. They were like, that's fine. Fond memories of the Walter White mask. I mean, it's kind of arrogant to think that somebody would actually think of one of these as being the real actor, but Bryan Cranston, disguised as his own character walking around Comic-Con. Originally, the idea was to never have that happen because of the juxtaposition of body and face. But since then, it's become more of, well, it's become more of a career, and it's become more of like people want them to be as real as possible. It was a long learning experience figuring out how to style that. Smash it down and hit it again with the massive amount of hairspray. The reaction I want to get from people is simultaneous disgust and awe. Why? Because I'm just messed up.
A number of years ago, I was in a little town, Darjeeling, on the northern boundary of India, where it met Tibet. And there were several visitors from various countries, and the hotel management decided it would be appropriate to give a little entertainment in the Tibetan spirit. So they brought in about a half a dozen Tibetan dancers with their masks and regalia to entertain. And among them was a little boy about 8 years old, a very cute, chubby little rascal, and everyone liked immediately. But when the time for the dance came, he put on one of the most grotesque masks you'd ever want to see. He really was, it looked like a nightmare. And of course everyone knew it was the little boy. But during the dance he started and moved over very rapidly towards the audiences, always getting ready to attack them. And you should have seen the audience scatter. They all knew it was a little boy, but with the mask something happened. And a real spirit of ancient and primary fear moved in on those people. They actually, subconsciously, were terrified. On another occasion, I remember in the Japanese no drama, where the principal actors are masked. Many of the themes are highly sacred, and in the various performances, the actors are nearly always concealed behind these wood-carved masks that are well painted and decorated, but of course have no expression except that of the original carving. But under a careful handling of lights, particularly by the postures of the head in relationship to the source of light, these faces seem to change. And in moments of joy, the face really seemed to smile. And in sorrow, the face looked very tragic. And yet it was done with a wooden mask, but everyone felt it. The skill with which the mask was handled was the principal factor. In the southwest of the United States, we have a series of ritualistic dances by the various Indian tribes. the Zunis, Hopis, Navajo. These dances often include masked figures, and everyone knows that these masked figures are members of the local community. One of the men with a mask, very carefully developed, rather crude mask concealment, actually has two children in the audience. They all know that it's father, but when he dances toward them with a sacred pollen, they kneel instinctively as though he was a god. Something happens when the masks begin to take a part in religious ritual. Masks were used in Egypt, we know, in the temple mysteries. And even today, the various carvings and manuscripts of Egyptian origin show human beings with the masks of birds and animals. The Greeks used masks in their theater also. Nearly always a mask becomes a complete change of personality. If accompanied by adequate religious ritual, the mask becomes a secret of the development of a peculiar theological belief that there was a divine power in the mask. And when it was worn correctly and under ritual supervision, it brought a deity into contact with humanity. Well, in the course of time, the mask cults have gradually faded, but in many primitive countries they still survive. Then came another step forward in the study of human psychology. It is almost impossible for the average person to understand a completely abstract principle. It is very hard to visualize something that has no form, or to visualize an energy which is completely unembodied. From very early times, it became apparently necessary to present nearly all of the important truths of life symbolically.
It's time to kick off the last drive-in home shopping network. Come on over, Darcy, and we will start with essentials.
Yay!
What you need to avoid those last-minute runs to Macy's. And you know what you're going to need? You're going to need a mask, right? Everybody needs a fresh mask, but you're going to need a cool mask.
You want to start with yours?
So yeah, we're going to start with mine. So
Alrighty.
because I've got the coolest mask. As you can see, it's a buff, ripped cowboy on the open range. I wear this little baby when I go to Target. And when you wear this, guys, you will make friends easily. It's a conversation starter. It's an invitation to discuss Brokeback Mountain, which is written by my Texas colleague, Larry McMurtry, by the way. And if you're thinking of a modeling career or applying at Chippendales, this is a good motivational accessory when you visit that outdoor gym to get pumped for the audition. And I've got one word for you guys, deltoids, right? Very versatile mask. I'm going to start the bidding at $15 on this thing. I will sign it. I will verify that I've worn it, but fumigated it thoroughly before the resale. So Darcy, match that.
Alrighty. Well, I too have a mask.
And wait a minute, before you do that.
I'm going to display it.
Just so people can
See the beauty.
Just so people can, All right, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right, well, I knew you had a mask, so I have mine too. Bam!
Oh, wow. Memories of the original marathon. That's the mask you wore in the one you can't even talk in, right?
I can't talk, I can't see, but it's
Daimoni! Daimoni, the mask from Demons. Darcy, this is not just apples and oranges. This is apples and watermelons. What do you, I think you're cheating. When I said mask, your mask, you can't wear that to Target, but.
You can.
You can, but they'll think you're a terrorist or, the grandpa cult leader from Hack-A-Lantern or something. Well, they wouldn't think you were the grandpa cult leader from Hack-A-Lantern due to the rest of the package. But, when we said masks, I thought we were talking about, mask, not mask, not like real mask, you know. Is that the one you wore on the first marathon?
It absolutely is.
All right, let's get the bidding started. I think my buff cowboy mask will still outsell you. So, all right, where do you want to start your opening bid? I'm at 15.
I think I'm gonna start it out at 100.
Ah, come on, you'll never get that. They can buy a ripped cowboy starting at 15. They're not gonna spend 100 on that.
We'll see.
Okay, go for it. Your funeral.
Huh?
Hello everyone. We in North Africa always want to thank all the doctors in the world.
The subject for the morning has been an object of considerable controversy. And back in the old medieval periods, there were very elaborate works dealing with magic. Magic sometimes uncertain, often unsavory in those days. Dark circles at the crossroads, haunts, various forms of black magic. All these finally gathered together under the general term of the astral light. The word itself, of course, is a perfectly innocent word. It really means essentially the effects of the stars. The convergence of star energies upon the atmosphere of the earth. We have a feeling of what they do when they affect us by astrology and by weather and by numerous meteorological reports. We are informed, at least in part, of starry influences. But the effect of these influences upon the Earth's subtle atmospheres became the basis of an elaborate structure in magical thinking. A large part of magnetic healing is a result of energies being directed either by human consciousness or by various medicinal substances which carry these energies. Therefore, the whole planet is a vast organism, a tremendous, vital, dynamic structure, of which we in our daily living see only the outside and the surface. Beneath the surface is not just simply vast strata of rocks and volcanic forces. The invisible part of the earth is a tremendous being, for as the ancients put it, the earth is alive. The ancients definitely believed that the individual had a field of energy around him which could and did affect his life, that he also could poison this field with his own thinking, that he could destroy himself, and that phenomena such as drug addiction and alcoholism are aspects of the perversion of energies, that they are the sickening of the field of the imagination that surrounds the body. So we have a problem that goes back to the dawn of time as to what is imagination, how does it work, and is there a solid structure there, and how can we direct it, or how does it direct us? All this was part of ceremonial magic, became involved in the Kabbalah, and has more lately taken its place in metaphysical psychology. All of these elements, therefore, must be brought down to some level where we can use them, where we can find out what they're doing to us or what we are doing to them. At the present moment, the astral light is largely the product of what we have done to it. This field is a kind of field of the ghost world. It is the field of the invisible, but in a sense bound to the visible form of life. The Egyptians knew this ghost or phantom world. They also equated it with sleep and dreams, and believed in many cases, and perhaps correctly, that the dream life of the individual is not a mere fantasy. It is a fantasizing of something else. Anyway, we find in modern thinking there has come out of it all a kind of concept of magic. The magic of accomplishing certain purposes by dramatic intensities of the will. With magic also has come an absolutely necessary correlative, and that is ritual. This is another aspect of the same thing as the so-called ghost and dance and mask rites of ancient peoples. We have an exhibit in the library here now of the sacred masks of the Southwest American Indians. The Indian is perfectly aware of the fact that the mask is made by himself. He is perfectly aware of the fact that when he is wearing it, he is still himself. But when he combines the mask with himself, something happens. While he is wearing this mask, the astral light has stepped into his consciousness. Magic. He is no longer simply a member of the tribe. He is now some kind of a strange being conjured up by sorcery, conjured up by imagination, by ritual, rite, and symbol. Therefore, the Indian, I've been up to where they put these dances on once a year, and a young Indian, for instance, with a mask, will be approached by his own family, his wife, his mother. But when he is wearing the mask, they will pray to him as a god. The moment he takes it off, he's back on earth. But in the midst of ritual, of magic, of transformation, something happens. Eliphas Levi, the French transcendentalist, says that these things are creatures of the astral light.
You are beaten. It is useless to resist. Don't let yourself be destroyed as Obi-Wan did.
I find it kind of funny, I find it kind of sad. The dreams in which I'm dying are the best I've ever had. I find it hard to tell you, I find it hard to take. When people run in circles, it's a very, very mad world. Mad world. Enlarge in your world. Mad world.
Julian Huxley once wrote that the basic elements in cultural transmission and transformation are psychological. This is how we change. Since time immemorial, high rituals have been performed to transform reality. Ritual, a spiritual psychodrama of conscious, deliberate actions taken to facilitate change. Changes to the whole of the environment people exist in, starting with the mental landscape of the people themselves, the place where our reality is first born a dream. Artist Sharon Devlin once bluntly described the true purpose of ritual as being a method to alter one's mind. It's a sacred drama in which you are the audience as well as the participant, and the purpose of it is to activate parts of the mind that are not activated by everyday activity, she said. The mechanics of change through mechanism, a rhythm to sync to, merge and flow with, a magnetic draw drawing one down the path toward transmutation. Rituals are vehicles driving home those ideas. The information, the data, the symbols, which upon transmission create the language by which new society members communicate after they are initiated. This new language imparts a new understanding through definitions the ritual generates, meaning pegged to signposts of its own self-referential process, even if the original purpose gets lost in the repetition of action. A ritual initiation introduces and inducts one into the way, a new way of life or worldview, a program to guide beliefs and actions, enabling the initiate to become a full and true member of the new society. Note that ritual is not always a conscious action. Not everyone partaking in a ritual is always made explicitly aware that they are participants. And yet still, new patterns of thought, of significance, are drummed in, conscious or not.
Ladies and gentlemen, this commercial is going to use subliminal advertising.
An initiation ritual typically involves 3 stages. See if any of this sounds familiar to you.
Because this is going to be transformative.
First, isolation for purification. The initiate is separated from the mundane. Did you know mundane means of the world?
School has been canceled, social events have been postponed.
The initiate is largely removed from the otherwise familiar persons, places, and things one is used to, in order to be cleared of them.
Stay home, protect yourself, protect our system. Stay home. Everyone must stay at home. We have to stay home because if we don't, stay home, stay safe.
Detached and insulated, purged, purified.
An extraordinary time where we have to stay home. We have to stay physically distant from the ones we love. How we can change our day-to-day life to avoid direct face-to-face contact. Try and keep yourself away from people as much as possible.
An essential element of this separation from one's typical environment is the suspension of the normal rules of living that one is used to. The normal way.
Normality, as it was before, will not come back.
Much of the initiate's senses will be commanded and regulated at this time. In other words, the majority of what the initiate sees, hears, smells, touches, and tastes, if directly related, is deliberately controlled. These senses may be bombarded, modified, limited, or deprived. But regardless, perceptions and experiences are ultimately overseen by the high priests and priestesses directing the ritual's performance, enabling new light to shine through a newly opened window of thought.
Every generation has a higher purpose. Ours is to stay home.
With nowhere else to go except where allowed, the insulated, isolated initiate may be forced to confront his or her own reflection, and inner shadows that have been ignored or buried somewhere deep beneath the average day-to-day suddenly become unavoidable. Triggers detonated. Another purge. Just as they involve surrender, initiation rituals may also involve sacrifice. Both the tangible that can be held in a hand and the intangible, such as behaviors, may be given up by requirement.
We're forced to change our routines, lifestyles, and habits, and many will be desperate for life to go back.
After all, for something to be given, something must also be taken. A token of submission, an ounce of blood, a pound of clay to be remolded.
Society will undergo a radical transformation.
Whether dramatically overt or deceitfully subtle, the ritual reinterprets. A new definition given. Training in the form of new behaviors and knowledge, including myths and codes.
Our world is filled with codes, pacts, user agreements, subliminal messages.
Necessary for new members to function properly in the society they are being inducted into, are all imbued at this time. Repetition is typical, as its use helps hammer the spell home.
A new normal? A new normal. We have to accept a new normal.
The wearing of masks may be required. Masking has traditionally played an important role in rituals of this kind.
Meantime, New York City has joined Los Angeles, advising residents to cover their faces. Well, we've already seen a big jump in the number of people wearing masks.
Well, they've announced that anybody who is flying on the plane is going to be having to wear a mask. See here right behind me, about half the folks in line at this market basket right now are wearing masks. Today there was a mandate that went into effect across the entire country to wear a mask.
Enabling and hastening the suppression of ego to help facilitate a death of the old identity before the identification with and manifestation of a new one. Disguised under a mask and hidden away, the initiate is more easily able to transcend the self, pushed further toward that invisible line between the physical and spiritual realms.
The fear that we have, the anxiety that we have, that's not just going to go away.
Trauma is another aspect of this kind of initiation, and most especially to personalize the fear of death.
People are dying, and nearly 6,000 Americans have died.
Sometimes the act of dying is even ceremonially role-played. The dark beyond the darkness. The yawning abyss.
I thought I was going to die, and I've never been faced with death before.
Only after death is confronted can the initiate be symbolically resurrected, reborn anew.
To go to sleep in one world and wake up in another.
While the process that is playing out is quite coordinated and sophisticated in reality, it may be executed in a purposefully confusing manner.
Thanks for joining us. I know we're surrounded by uncertainty. It feels like everything is changing.
So that the goalposts seem to keep moving back and forth, up and down, here now there, rendering the initiate unable to find solid mental ground from which to make logical sense of anything.
We're trying to figure out how to do this every week because everything changes constantly.
This disorientation is key. The uncertain timing generates a general anxiety, further removing the initiate from reality and leaving him or her more susceptible to a type of Pavlovian conditioning. This weakens the defenses just as a virus would, only this has the potential to break down the individual much more completely than a virus would.
I know we're surrounded by uncertainty.
Whatever the finer details, the previous way of life is shed like an old skin. At the end that comes before the beginning, the change begins. This is the second phase, the transition.
It's liminal time or liminal space. The word liminal literally means threshold, that we're on a threshold of a new time, a new way of doing things in our society, that there's going to be some transformation.
As the old self symbolically dies and passes away, the initiate descends into a state of liminality, a sort of fever dream purgatory nowhere land, the void in the middle. Thus the old self dies as the initiate is purified. Now a white room, a blank canvas washed and primed and desperate for paint, a tabula rasa. At the same time his old existence and way of life dies, the initiate transcending it is gradually being processed, reprogrammed, and incorporated into his or her new environment.
Because this is going to be transformative. It is going to be transformative on a personal basis, on a social basis, on a systems basis. We're never going to be the same again.
Welcome to the Mars Federal Colony. For your safety and comfort, domes have been installed to protect you from the vacuum outside. Please do not touch exterior windows or airlocks. And since the air volume is limited, no smoking is allowed anywhere in the colony.
All right.
Thank you, and enjoy your stay on Mars.
Passport?
Come on, get out of the way. Make way! Stand back!
Quaid. That's Quaid.
Where?
The woman. Get him. Her.
Arrest that woman! Get that woman! Grab her! Back up these people! Clear!
Catch!
Get ready for a surprise!
What are you doing with the rest of your life?
Catching up on some me time, find God.